There's been plenty of video games that have had us hitting our controller on the floor, but some bosses are just downright painful. These bosses prove to be no less than the devil and have been the subject of many profanities from the gaming communities, all rightfully so. In today's video, we'll be going over the hardest bosses in video games ever, so keep watching. Number 1. Metroid Dread's Ravenbeak. Metroid Dread had most of the gamer community in a chokehold with its horror-tinged sci-fi feels. The endless maze of rooms with an even longer list of monsters to defeat kept most of us glued to our screens. The action-adventure game offered a variety of monstrous entities to fight off, including, but not limited to, some fireball-spitting monsters, robots with guns, and other predatory monsters. While all of these have proven to be a big pain in the ass, the game's Ravenbeak is particularly notorious in the gamer community for giving most of them a hard time. The 4-stage fight takes forever to get through. The entire battle is hectic and requires your utmost attention owing to the fast-paced nature of the battle. His abilities include filling the arena with pink energy that'll dissolve you and a bullet storm that can make it rain in the arena. You're gonna need a fair share of stamina to get through this one. Number 2. Karstad from Skyrim. Next up, we have Karstad Skyrim. Released back in 2011, Skyrim is an old one, but Big Boss Karstad from the game is still talked about. He was one of the secret bosses in the role-playing action game. The face-off happened after you completed an unmarked quest called Summoning Karstad. Then you had to get a skull from the glacial cave and place it on the throne in the Catholic Carson ruins. Upon doing so, Karstad appeared, and if you weren't prepared, you'd end up dead. He's level 90, and defeating him was no piece of cake. Not only was he immune to frost, paralysis, and poison, he also had an annoying ability to regenerate in a short amount of time. What's even more frustrating? If you managed to inflict a fair share of damage, Karstad would summon 3 ice snakes, which definitely got on people's nerves. On the bright side, if you did end up defeating Karstad, you'd gain the ability to summon him in battle 3 times. Number 3. Shiva in Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is for veterans only. The game was not exaggerating with ambitions of God and human clash amidst the horror of a dying world written in its description. The post-apocalyptic role-playing game throws everything at you to test you. There are a lot of bosses across the 4 open areas of the Netherworld, a post-apocalyptic city crawling with all kinds of beasts and gods. From the mischievous Loki to the Indian god Ganesha, the game's got a variety of enemies up its sleeve, but the main boss Shiva truly tests your mettle. He's a level 96 boss and packs heavy physical, electrical, and fire attacks. As if dealing with him alone isn't enough to add to your troubles, he can summon fellow god Ganesha to his aid. You're gonna need some serious skills to take him down. Number 4. Old King Alliant from Demon's Souls. Back in 2020, Demon's Souls graced our PlayStation as part of the launch title for the PS5. It's a role-playing action game where you're tasked with bringing down the old one. In the final battle, you're up against the Old King, who, strictly speaking, is not the easiest of enemies. He's got a fair share of devastating attacks. One covers the entire arena and delivers massive damage. Adding to the multiple combos, the Old King's got a nasty move where he literally grabs you and sucks the soul right out of you, permanently lowering your max levels in the process. If you want to defeat this one, you gotta be a pro at dodging, and don't forget to look out for that nasty grab. Number 5. Theseus and Asterius from Hades. Much to everyone's surprise, Hades is not the hardest boss from this game. It's Theseus and Asterius. These two gang up on you together and really put your skills to the test. This delivers long-range damage as he shoots down spears from a distance. On the other hand, Asterius gets in your face with a big swinging axe. He's also got bull charge attacks with the perfect tracking, so almost everyone has a hard time dealing with him. Theseus doesn't have a lot of HP, but he's harder to keep track of. The character has an irksome habit of showing up out of nowhere and launching an attack. He's also always casting screen cover spells to make matters worse. And then there's also the fact that he likes to hide behind a shield. Overall, these two make for a tough boss battle. Number 6. Hell House from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's no surprise that this one made it to the video. The game's an overall handful with some pretty nasty opponents. You've got the Shenra Electric Power Company bosses and the robot machines to deal with. However, the boss that's been known to give the hardest time to most people is Hell House. In the original game, his character made a small appearance in the Sector 6 slums, but the remake featured him as the big boss. As to what makes him one of the hardest bosses, well, for starters, he's got a lot of HP. He's also always changing his elemental weaknesses. There are 4 phases to the fight, with the next one being harder than the previous one. The only way to defeat him is to stagger him, and for that, you gotta hit him with his own elemental weakness. But as mentioned before, Hell House changes his elemental weakness after a while. This doesn't leave you with enough time to get the magic out, making your move pretty much useless. Make sure you come up with a game plan before you get in the ring with this one. Number 7. Heisenberg Village of Shadows. Regardless of how many upgrades and weapons players seem to stack up, they all seemed futile when up against Heisenberg. You can find him in the tank section. Heisenberg is capable of inflicting some serious damage. Since you're fighting from inside the tank, your movements are highly limited, and many players found it harder to target his weak spots. What's more, players can't heal and die on just 3 hits. This calls for a need for exceptional dodging skills. Number 8. Nemesis in Returnal. Returnal is one game that has given almost everyone a hard time. The developers wanted players to feel the same level of agony as the game's protagonist Celine, and with the gameplay they ended up designing, they sure reached their target. Nemesis stands out as the most difficult boss of the game. You can find him at the Derelict Citadel. He's capable of inflicting high damage attacks, which makes the battle hard right from the get-go. In the second phase of the fight, platforming elements enter the mix for a brief period, but they become the real deal in the third phase. You have to move across the levitating platforms, all the while avoiding his dealing attacks and using Celine's grapple to strike right back at him. Of course, that's not easy. For starters, you're vulnerable when in between platforms. Second, inflicting damage on the boss is not easy. It's gonna take you a couple of tries to get this one right. Number 9. Mythic Kil'jaeden from World of Warcraft. Next up, we have World of Warcraft, which is well known for giving gamers some of the most challenging raid bosses ever. It's a pain to defeat some of the bosses, even on a normal level. When it comes to the most difficult video game boss ever, it's Kil'jaeden. You can find him in the Tomb of Sargeras. He's a 3-phase boss and has got plenty of moves up his sleeves. The first successful attempt to defeat the boss on Mythic difficulty was made by Method, and it took him around 654 attempts. Facing off Kil'jaeden alone requires you to defeat 8 other bosses, which isn't an easy task in any way. Number 10. Marauder from Doom Patrol. Even though he's more of a mini-boss, Marauder has been known to make most players sweat their pants. He's got an incredible speed for one, and has got an infuriating ability of being able to block your attacks. To inflict damage on him, you're gonna need excellent positioning along with perfect time. Killing him is a whole different story. As if facing off against him one time was not enough, the developers decided to place him multiple times throughout the game. At long range, Marauder rains down beams of energy, while at close range, he'll use a double-barreled shotgun. He's also got an axe for medium distances. What's more, he can summon a wolf to chase the Slayer when he's absorbed enough damage with his shield. They're immune to the ice bomb as well as the chainsaw. They can also block your BFG's tendrils. All in all, he's definitely going to test your patience. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you have any other video game bosses that belong on the list? If so, make sure to let us know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Bye now.